You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the October 17th, 2024 meeting of the LaPorte County Council Budget Public Hearing. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good evening. We're going to call the LaPorte County Council 2025 budget hearings back into session. At this time, everybody please turn off your phones. Roll call, please.
Councilman Cunningham.
Present.
Councilman Yagelski.
Present.
Councilman Rosenbaum.
Present.
Councilman Novak.
Present.
Councilman Karanka.
Present.
Councilman Mullenhour.
Present.
Councilman Keel.
Present.
All 7 members are present.
Thank you. We're going to suspend the Pledge of Allegiance at a budget hearing. We usually don't do those at budget hearings.
Correct.
So. Roll call.
Hey, Rhonda.
Budget discussions, the CNAV.
The dog cares. I'm sorry. CNAP, sorry.
We're on to number 1 item.
What I wanted to draw your attention to is that our office had turned in the CNAV. I don't have it. It is here somewhere, but turned in the CNAV as 7 billion and some. It's out of order in my packet. But you'll notice on the 4Bs that what happens is the vendors change it. They don't want to overestimate. So they take last year's number and then add the 4%. And we claim 85% of that as our CNAV and then 100% of that number for the ones that are rate based. So if you see a different amount on the 4Bs, that's why. They want the goal is that the DLGF lowers our numbers to where they should be, not that we make a mistake and underestimate. But the 7 million is what was certified. 7 billion, I think it is what was certified. Here it is.
730.
It's in your packet. It says CNAV.
You didn't say 7 billion, did you?
Yeah, it's 7 billion. 7
I
billion.
did say that. It's in your packet under CNAV.
You got, yeah.
While everybody's pulling it up, it's 7,044,180,697.
That's under 104.
Can I ask, where's it at? Where are you looking?
About halfway through the packet, you'll see this.
It's not the first item, since it's first item?
Do you mean it's not in that first? Do you mean where's it at in the packet or in LaPorte County?
Packet.
It says CNAV.
Halfway back.
Thank you.
Oh, there it is. I thought they were in order, but apparently they're not. So is there any discussion on this? Do we need to approve just?
The only thing you're really, the only thing you're really approving tonight is, I think the only thing that happens on the agenda tonight technically is if there's any public comments for public hearing for the budget.
Right.
Otherwise, it's really just understanding it for when the 1782 notice comes in and you have those 10 days. That's the most important time. But otherwise, the thing that's hard about the information in front of you when it's submitted is it gets inflated so that we overestimate instead of underestimate.
Got it.
So it's really just if you have any questions or need to understand anything.
Ms. Graves, to the extent that some of the expenses are overestimated now so that it could be advertised, at what point will we correct those numbers to what we truly anticipate will be the expenses?
I think most of the expenses, with the exception of probably the general fund, are pretty accurate. Although there is one that's underreported that I think will end up with an appropriation in January, but I'll deal with that at a later meeting. But what will happen is when we get the 1782 notice, the DLGF would have cut back they should have fixed our CNAV. They would fix the rate then. They would tell us the most that we're approved for. They will cut back the levy. So actually it will be up to the council to shift some of those things around to where they think it's best for the budget. But the 1782 notice is where you'll see all of the ending. I mean, I have all the budgets otherwise in my office or in your binders.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other discussions on item number 1, CNAVs? Hearing none, we'll move on to number 2, the levies.
The levy also has a paper just like CNAV, but it says probably property cap and levy. It looks like this. That's the budget that you have, Adam.
Oh, yeah. It's got the levy on the top.
So it's not directly behind the one that says levy and circuit?
Well, I hope so, but I've already moved mine around. But it looks like this.
Third page. That's the third page.
And at the top, it says estimated 2025 fund level property tax cap impact information.
Where he found the other thing, it was right.
It's about 1/3 of the way through the packet, roughly.
Got it. Okay.
I just lost it. I had it.
I'll just share his. I don't.
The two things that are important on this page are the proposed levy the proposed levy for the year is $47,757,952. However, we do not take all of that. So again, that's something that the DLGF will cut back because we do not take there is no budget for disabilities. I forget how it's worded, but mental disabilities maybe. So that's a few thousand that we will not get. The property tax cap is estimated at $6,650,000. So that will stay true and won't be certified until the spring.
So as I look at the Form 3, where it talks about the estimated civil max levy, it matches what's on the Department of Local Government Finance form you just...
It will, because they always want you to report the full availability so that you don't miss anything. But, and I'll find my Form 3 here in a second, but how much does it say on the Form 3 at the bottom?
I'm going with the top for the estimated civil max levy,
Yeah.
almost indicating it's available. Even at the bottom, for the
bottom
totals
number says
under...
medical or health disabilities. Do you see that number at the bottom of the 3? Oh, you're talking about the Form 3. No, I'm sorry, the Form 3 does, that
in
is
my
the
packet?
max, yes.
Yes, I don't have.
Form 3 is the max, that's correct.
Okay.
It isn't what we will be given, but it is the max allowed.
So right here. Right here.
So, for discussion's sake, we're talking about $47,757,000 minus basically $833,000. The estimated mental health adjustment.
No, we do the mental health, it's the next one. You see?
Developmental disabilities
Yes,
adjustment.
we
That's
don't do that one.
which is 2.4 million.
So we will not get that amount. Because what happens is, with the levy, it's a tax rate that's coming in. So let's just call it a tax increase. So if you're saying we will give that out if we collect the money. We don't give it out, therefore we can't collect that money.
So we're essentially entitled.
But that's not what we're giving.
If it helps to further explain what that developmental disability adjustment is the state allows us to grow our levy by 4% per year, or it's the maximum levy growth quotient is what we're allowed to grow it, but this year it's capped at 4%. This amount for that developmental disability adjustment is outside of that 4% cap, and so that's why it's denoted separately in the calculations. But Rhonda's correct that we would have to actually choose to do something with it in order to collect it, but it's still reported shown on the forms.
So essentially our total levy revenue, if you will, is gonna be somewhere in the order of 45,335,000.
Yes, and to pad that on, the vendor had me add it to the general. So you can assume if all the numbers were perfect, the general would be 2 million less. It doesn't mean you will keep those levies though when the 1782 notice comes in.
While we're on the topic of levies, I would call attention to that some of the different levy controlled funds, so your things like general, 2015 reassessment, highway, etc. Some of these funds have us spending more than what we're bringing in revenue. And so what is eventually going to happen when we run out of cash in those funds is we're going to have to increase the levy in order to cover those costs, or you have to shift the costs out somewhere else. So somewhere down the line, you're going to have to take levy revenue that's currently going into the general fund and shift it over to places like 2015 reassessment, highway, et cetera, in order to make sure that those balance. So that's worth noting and being aware of. It'll probably come up as an issue next year.
Major moves and lit economic development.
Is there,
Actually, both of those don't solve this because those, well, except for the economic development maybe, but major moves is not it's not replenishing itself. It's not a source of revenue. It's a source of saving.
fix, right?
Well,
So in order to sustainably solve this problem, you would need to have a new source of revenue offsetting it, or move those expenses into a new source of revenue.
Any other conversation on the levy? Hearing none, we'll move on to circuit breakers.
Circuit breakers is the same page, it's the property tax cap that you see on the right.
This is in my pen. I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yes, that same piece of paper that we were on, the levies. The far right shows the property tax cap loss, and that's the circuit breakers.
Same amount of money.
Yeah.
Right.
That makes sense. So what that does is, let's say with the levy, we can bring in 42,392,256. The tax cap or the circuit breaker would lower that by 5 million. And if you shift those around, you'll see those numbers change in the program.
Questions?
Make sure I understood that, 42 before circuit breaker application, 37 afterwards, approximately.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
42 million prior to the property tax caps, and about 37 million afterwards.
That's approximately what it would end up being, yes. But remember that the levy is padded 2 million as well, so it's not exact right now. But yes.
Any other questions or?
I'll wait until we're done with Form B.
All right. Next time is budget versus revenue.
What I want to point out to you on budget versus revenue is on the Form 4Bs that you see. They might have been towards the top of the packet behind the budget. If you look at them, for example, my first one is the general, which should be your first one as well.
Yep.
If you go, when you get it, if you go to line 14, you'll see that the approximate revenue is 54,856,000, but line 15 shows the budget estimate at 56,392,223. So not sustainable because it's budgeted 2 million over. Can you keep that budget? Yes, because line 18 is positive. So the DLGF would not cut this budget based on the information that's reported.
And this is based off of an estimate of what we expect to return to the general based off of 2024?
A complete estimate, usually I try to get an average of 2 or 3 years, but yes, a complete estimate.
Okay.
This is appropriate time, Mr. President, if I could.
Absolutely.
Prior to our meeting on the 28th, could you tally up all of the additional appropriations that the council has approved this calendar year?
Absolutely, I keep
I
a,
know we made some in February. I doubt if we made any in January, but it's possible.
we did.
We did have
Yep.
additional
Have a
appropriations in
spreadsheet of them all.
January.
Yep.
That's what, could you have that spreadsheet available for us?
Yes, I won't be here, but I'll put it in the packet for you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other discussion?
And to be clear, I don't want transfers that look like
I don't.
additional appropriations. I'm just talking about actual additional appropriations.
So the additional appropriations that I keep track of are the ones that have to be reported to DLGF, and I do those by fund, and so it's going to be what you refer to as an appropriation or permission to spend, as well as additional appropriations, because they are all by definition additional
Is
appropriations.
there a way to sort out
That's my question.
money appropriations? In other words, we're not appropriating money within the budget that they have and giving them.
It's listed by
Permission.
budget or by fund, so you'd be able to see based on that.
I think where she's going, if he might.
He's looking for the total appropriated, right?
Looking.
No, I'm looking for the
New
total
money.
additional appropriated, because here's a good
Add to
example.
a budget.
If you look at the budget, one of the big transfers next month, it's listed under additional appropriations, is you're transferring money to the rainy day fund.
Oh, I don't keep track of that, no.
That's my point,
He
though.
doesn't
It
want
looks-
that added in.
That's not on there anyway, but
It looks like that
what
on
I
the sheet for
report
the
to the
public.
DLGF, yeah, which that is reported, but
If the, use as an example, if the recorder comes in and transfers $1 million from her fund to spend on computers or whatever.
I don't list any transfers,
But you do technically.
no.
We're moving money all the time.
You're
from-
appropriating that money.
Earl, if I may.
All appropriations, yes, so anything that you give, by definition of permission to spend is included, but a transfer is already permission, so moving it doesn't get reported.
So, if I may, so gas, fuel, and oil, right? Everybody, places like the sheriff's department use gas, fuel, and oil all the time. That's one that we set a budget for, and at budget hearings, we say, if you run out, come back, right? It's volatile market at times, and they use a lot of it. If we added more money from rainy day, if we added more money from somewhere else into that fund, in addition to,
We don't put anything
Is that
in
what you're
another
asking
fund,
for?
but yes.
So, but
You're talking about the ones that are like, what Randy's talking about, for
new
example.
money, I call it
Yeah.
having to
What
add
you're talking about is like, I'll pick like sheriff's, accident. fund.
overtime. Sheriff comes to us for overtime.
That would be in. the
911
additional
comes to us for
appropriation.
overtime. We have to take money out of it.
That's the key
If we
expression.
don't take it out of an account,
Additional appropriation. That's all I care about. I don't care about these internal department things.
or permission to spend, what we call that.
What you call permission to spends will be on that list, and what you.
There's no
would-
way to separate that out.
Can't separate out for us how
It's
much.
separated by fund, so I mean, you can always say, don't count that fund, but the sheet that I have prepared for the year includes all of the funds that were
So
appropriated.
don't give us the funds that are internal funds.
I,
Right, wait,
it
hang on
would
a
just
second.
take a lot of work to do that, so you may not get it for a while, is all that I'm saying, if you want it changed.
What you're looking for, what I hear, I believe, is you're just looking for additional monies that were spent that were not budgeted.
Over and above the budget, exactly. A good example
Or in a department's account that's already.
That's spent over
So
the budget.
the health department has money that might be, they come to us and we have to appropriate it because they don't have what
Yeah.
we call permission.
That is an additional
Right,
appropriation that
right.
would be on that list.
Right, but it's
You'll
within
That's
their.
not new money.
No,
I agree.
The health
I agree.
department-
You're
That's
asking
what I'm
about new
trying to-
money.
right.
But my list is by additional appropriation, period, is all that I'm saying.
For example, on the last meeting we had, there was $4 million in additional appropriations listed at the bottom, but only $2 million of that was truly additional appropriations.
New money. New money.
Rest
put into
was-
the budget.
Right.
That didn't come out of it.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'll send you what I have, and yeah, feel free to cross off a fund if you don't want it, but it is tallied by fund.
So you can't run down at the computer and just say $12 million.
No, because
Thank
it's
you.
by
Thank
fund. By fund.
can I have that in Excel, please?
It is in Excel, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right.
Then you should be able to put a formula together to pull it.
You can strip it. You can
Okay.
do a lot of different things to filter it out.
I'm not a professional user.
Then you'll
of it.
send
I
that
thank
to
you for
Rex,
doing
then?
that.
You'll send it to us.
I just make spreadsheets.
Oh, sure.
Moving on to Form 4B.
Again, that same packet, those are the lines to really look at as you're going through, which is 14 and 15, and then 18. If it's negative, it would not be approved, but I did get all of the negative budgets fixed. So you should not see any in there.
This isn't specifically in the 4B, well, it kind of is under miscellaneous revenue, but I would call attention to there's budget form 2, which is estimate of miscellaneous revenue. On the PDF version of the packet, it's page 39. There's probably some things in there that we're going to need to keep an eye on next year, particularly interest revenue. As the Fed lowers interest rates, there is a possibility that that amount of revenue that's projected in here will end up being lower. And then there's always the possibility that some of the departments that have revenue streams, EMS, juvenile services, et cetera, if they aren't bringing in the revenue that we projected in the budget, it could cause there to be a shortfall in revenue. So probably some sort of system needs to be set up so that we're tracking that revenue and seeing whether or not we're meeting our projections throughout the year and each month keeping tabs on that.
I agree. It'd be great to see a profit and loss like on the EMS and stuff to see how much they're coming in. And that's what I was requested earlier in the year, is so we could see how much is coming in versus how much we're having to spend out. We don't get a balance on that. And that's what we never have. This isn't directed at you guys. This is, we would like to see, because the money just comes back into the general fund and it poof is gone. But it would be nice.
Actually sent me something like this recently. I'll forward it to you. It's not like within the last 6 months, but it shows previous years.
Well, I asked for it and I didn't get anything, so.
He didn't, not from us, he didn't get it.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I'm more charming about it. I don't know.
Well,
Got
apparently
nothing
you
from
are.
us.
So apparently, yeah, maybe I'm on the wrong side, so.
No, he did not
maybe you
get
never
anything
know.
prepared by us. I would think the department should have all of that information as well. But I will say in the 4Bs, actually in the estimate, the revenue estimate, you will see lit, for example, or FIT, not lit. Financial institution tax is estimated by the DLGF. And so they estimated it quite higher than what we're going to end up getting. So once this was reported, we were able to find the numbers on the state website, and I think the DLGF said like 174,000, but it ends up being, we'll get 77 this November and 77 next May. So you will see some of those lower from the DLGF.
So one of the other things we wanted was the juvenile center. The judges come out and Dion, the director, comes out and says, we've returned 1.2 million, I'm making up a number, whatever the number is. We've returned that to the general fund. We've asked for, we want to know how much, what exactly is coming back. Is that for checks and balance, from you guys to tell us, yes, here's the actual amounts that came back from the DLGF, whoever it comes from, returned for what they're doing out at the juvenile center, because they come to us all the time and they say, look, we're bringing back millions of dollars into the county, and that's what we want to see, is something, a piece of paper that shows, yes, this is what we got back, confirming it, denying it. It's actually this amount. Same thing with the EMS. This is their collections, this is where it costs to run this. So we have a true cost of what it costs to run LaPorte County EMS.
One of the problems with that is that each department may put it into 7 different funds or 7 different accounts, but each department does keep track of their income. So asking them is probably going to be the best way to get your numbers.
Then you could have asked those departments to do it. I asked the auditor's office for that. That's what I asked.
Have all that information in one place. But
well, it's
take it for what you want.
I know, take it for what I want.
I would suggest.
It shouldn't take months later and you tell me I should go to the departments and ask them.
I think he said
I think I did.
I don't.
I think I did email the department head at the time, and then I didn't follow up because I may not have heard.
I don't believe the juvenile center tracks what we want is an accounting confirmation that what they're saying, because juvenile center gets up and Judge Alvisos gets up and says, we've returned $1.2 million last year. We want confirmation, just.
Can we have a meeting maybe of our office, you as president of the council and the juvenile center to make sure we're getting you what you wanted? I mean, I think there was some.
There's when deposits are made
to sit down and,
is there a way to track that money? When deposit or money just comes in and everybody just goes, oh, look how much money we got today. We don't know where it came from, but I mean, is there an identifier where it comes from?
Mrs. Houston sitting in the back of the room. She has a rough idea right now how much revenue you brought in last year and how much revenue you brought in this year, correct?
She doesn't bring in revenue.
Oh, I'm sorry. When you were with EMS, you would have been able to do that.
Right.
You knew from year to year what your income status was. Was your income down? Was your income up? Et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of as EMS.
Why is it,
Why can't we do that?
why can't we do that with the juvenile center? I see. Okay.
I'd suggest
We
that
can do it, but you guys can't.
if
Is
we
that
can
it?
if we can get together with the head of the juvenile center, you and us, that's what I would
Make a
ask.
motion that we authorize the president without any other councilman, unless they want to be present, to meet with any income producing departments and the auditor.
Second.
Motion is second. Is there any other questions?
If there's any other department or any other councilman that wants to be present for a certain department, then they need to notify Mr. Novak.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
I will notify them.
All right. Moving on, is there any other discussion on Form 4B? Justin, anything? I don't want, since you're on there, I did, not pointing you out, I just don't want to, if you got a question,
Not that I can think of.
don't want to ignore you. All right. Moving on to the public hearing. So at this time, we're going to open the public hearing. Anybody from the public that would like to speak on the 2025 budget? Anybody from the public that would like to speak on the 2025 budget? Last time, anybody from the public, anybody on Zoom would like to speak? Hearing none, public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Is there a motion by Mr. Karanka, second by Mr. Rosenbaum? Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, thank you.
Bullshit.